I started out wanting to be a magician, and I always broke the cardinal rule of magicianship, which was after I did a trick, I would show everybody how I did the trick. And that's supposed to ruin the illusion. But I always found it added to the illusion.
Chuck paints what he likes to call heads. He doesn't really necessarily think of his works as portraits in the 19th century attitude of what a portrait would be. In a way, it's almost about mapping the typography of a face.
Hi, it's Chuck. The collage that I sent in, I need it to fit a 96 by 84 canvas. From my earliest memories, I didn't recognize people or remember their faces. But I remember being in kindergarten, and by the end of the first year, I didn't know which kids were in my kindergarten class or the other one. So I knew that there was something going on, but it wasn't until much later that I really understood what I had wrong with me.
Chuck has a condition called face blindness, meaning that he does not recognize faces. That is one of the reasons that he uses photographs in his work instead of a sitter. Because if he's working with a person sitting in front of him, if that person turned their head just a little bit to the side like that, it would look to Chuck like a completely different image.
If I work from photographs, since it's already flat, I have a much better chance of remembering it. I have almost photographic memory for things that are flat. Since I don't recognize people, making portraits of people like I care about was a way to put their visage into my brain for good.
The idea of using a grid on a photograph and moving information from one square to another square, reinterpreting that information through the brush stroke, through the square of a print, allows him a sense of concentration and focus.
Well, really, all my work since 1967 has been done with a grid in one way or another. You know, it was something that was around since the dawn of time. The Egyptians scaled up things with a grid. It's a standard in the Renaissance as a way to enlarge things. But I started leaving the grid show. And that's sort of a different use of it.
When you look at each of these individual squares, you see almost a little abstract painting. And then when you back up, it turns into Cindy Sherman. In 1988, Chuck was at a speaking engagement and suddenly started to feel very ill. The last thing he really remembers is essentially crossing the street and walking into the hospital. When he woke up, he was, by all intents and purposes, a quadriplegic. As it happened, it was diagnosed that his spinal artery had collapsed. It's something like an aneurysm in your spine. So the same kinds of tricks that he taught himself as a little boy to help him focus and learn, he brought then to the table one more time to recover to the point where he could go back to work.
It was essential. I had a family, I had children, I had to figure out a way to get back to work. There just wasn't any question. The trouble was that I was paralyzed from here down, and they didn't know whether I was going to be able to move my arms, and I have no grip, I can't hold anything. But I thought, well, I'll get the paint on the canvas if I have to spit it on the canvas. I paint family and friends and other artists. Many are called and few are chosen. Nobody ever thinks they look right. That's why I don't do commissioned portraits. My friends tolerate my making their image, and they grit their teeth and they get through it.